Okay, so I've had a number of folks ask me about trout filleting, and that's what I'm going to do here today. So I found these beautiful brook trout here at a outing today, and I'll try to get a good view. This camera is not the greatest for this, but we'll go ahead and see what we can figure out. Okay, so the first thing that I like to do is I take off the head and gut the fish. So not too complicated there. On a trout, you've got a lateral cut that you want to make right about there, straight down. I'm just going to go ahead and cut it. These guys are a little frozen from being in the ice. But you want to cut behind those fins, and then of course you can see the anal vent, and you just cut up the center. And again, I'm not going to show too many guts and whatnot, but you get the idea. You cleaned one fish, you've cleaned them all. Trout, I think, are particularly not messy. This is a male fish. But you want to, so I'm going to fillet these, and a lot of guys like to cut directly against the backbone and just fillet the fish how it sits. I don't like to do that with trout because they are just a little more, they're a little softer than most fish, but you see this mud line, you've got to get this bloodline, mud line, whatever you're going to call it, you've got to get that out. Do not even bother filleting your fish without cleaning that off. And again, some guys just go for it. They cut the fillet off and then they go with it. Unless you're really good with your knife, you're going to have trouble with that. And this is by far the easier way to do this, even if it's a little bit messier. So you can see with that mud line out, the fish gets really all that mud line is off. You don't want to eat that, and if you ever bake your trout or grill your trout, do not leave that in there. So once that's as cleaned out as it can be, you can kind of wipe some of the slime off. But you can see this is a beautiful brook trout here. Just an awesome brook trout. And so what I like to do is start with a couple cuts. I always pat down the fish with a towel. Just gets rid of the slime and makes things far less slippery. So the trick with trout, because they don't have a lot of bones, is to get the most amount of meat that you can. And so what I do is I start by taking my knife and I make a couple of cuts. And then what I'm going to do is cut directly along the spine of the fish. Not going all the way through, and I'm not trying to go way down deep or anything like that. Just to the rib cage. And I cut on the other side too. And those two cuts are going to give me enough to get started with fillet. So you can see there. So again, I know this camera isn't the greatest for this type of thing, but you should be able to see here. You need a fillet knife, and it needs to be sharp. And what you first do is you come in and you run right along the ribs. And your knife, if your knife is sharp, you're going to be able to get real close and trim right up to that, right up to the bones. You can see I'm kind of peeling back. This fin is always a pain in the neck when you get started. So if you can get it out of the way, but you just kind of trim, and then once you get past that fin, you can do the cut down. So I hope you can see this pretty well. I think you can. Then you can do the cut down along the backbone. And don't, oh, I cut through the skin, so that's a problem. Unless you're going to eat that fish with the skin on it, which is fine, but now it's a pain in the neck to skin. So this one, I don't mind eating them with the skin, so I'll go to the other side. And hopefully you can get a good look here. And so again, I'm going to cut down to the ribs. Just let my knife contour around that. And then past this little fin. This fin right here, that's the one that you gotta get past before you sweep down the back fin. But now I can do this correctly. And you want to stop before you get to the end. And so then what you have is a nice fillet there. This fin makes for a difficult skinning, so I always trim off that little bit there. Okay. And then while I'm here, I'm going to take off this fin too, and I'll carve out any of the remaining rib bones, and I'll trim off this very bottom fin. So you can see we get a nice fillet in the making. And then to skin the fish, just take your knife and you cut down. And the trick here is to pull the skin. If you pull the skin, you won't cut up the, you won't slice the skin off. If you just try to move the knife through it, even a sharp knife, it'll be more difficult. So then, there you have a perfectly filleted piece of trout. And I just like to trim them up a little bit, get rid of all of that. There are no pin bones of any significance in small stream trout. They cook and are soft enough to deal with. On the top edge here, any of that kind of spine stuff, I just trim it down, and there you have a gorgeous fillet. So, in cooking trout, one of my favorite ways to cook this, and look at that beautiful, just that beautiful orange red flesh. That's definitely not a stock fish. But my favorite way to cook this is to salt and pepper the fillet, and then you take a teaspoon or two of cornstarch and just spoon it on, and then gently rub it onto the fish. And if you fry that in a shallow frying pan with butter, it will get nice and crispy, and the fish will be delicious. Of course, your carcasses and things just go in the trash. I'm going to move on to the other fish, and I don't think it's too important to see a whole bunch of them done one after another. But even if you do get to do what I did here, where you have missed the skin, you still can come back. It's just more tedious. And again, the trick here is pull that skin. Don't try and force your knife. And when you have the skin still on the carcass, of course, it's much easier to deal with. But there you see a nice, nice fillet. And so that there is a meal fit for a king. I hope that if you do like to trout fish, I hope that you are taking care to eat a few of them and enjoy them completely. So that fillet looks really good there. But that's how I do it. Happy fishing.